What's up, guys? Happy New Year. I know I'm pretty late to this considering it's Friday, January 7th, but I actually got these cool lights, which I have to use my phone, which is actually my camera in OBS. Otherwise, it's just these wicked white lights. So I'm gonna take a second and like turn these on the right way, and then I'll be right back. Alright, I give up. They're going on each end of the desk. If y'all don't like it, just tell me in the comments below. I'll move it wherever your heart desires. I'm going to show you guys something that has helped me a lot, and it all started with a 1% change. I use a Logic template because it makes my workflow much more simple. It uses less CPU, and I know exactly what I'm going for every time. Just saves time. I've had a lot of time. I've used this template for about a year, or the bones of this template for about a year. I've tried to do a little tweaks here and there, and I'm pretty proud of what I've been able to do. So I'm gonna walk you through it. If you want to follow along and do it yourself, if you're lazy and you love this template layout and you just want to download it, I will include it in the description below. But without further ado, let's get into it. So now we are in the DAW, we are in Logic. This is just a brand new screen. Before I get started, PRN just stands for as needed. I've worked as a pharmacy technician for a few years, and that's just a common phrase that is written. I don't know what it actually stems from or anything like that, but that's one of the few things I've learned working there, and it's really easy to put that instead of like as needed bus. So now we're in the DAW. I got Logic open to a brand new project, and I opened up an instrument or a MIDI instrument, and I'm just going to leave that there for a while. We're not going to touch it. You look over here, you can see that this is actually going to be the layout of what all we're going to be doing if you're following along and doing something similar. So to begin with, since we know what we're going to be doing, and this is going to be the project I use every time I'm producing a track or mixing a track for somebody else or myself, I'm going to go ahead and make this the way that I want it to be. First thing I'm going to do is just click on that arrow right there, make it custom. I really like it like this. Some of you guys may not, but I love that. It tells me everything I want to know, and I really prefer it that way, so we're going to do that. So the next thing we're going to do is go over to File, Project Settings, and then MIDI. We're going to navigate over to Chase, and we're going to hit this Notes tab, box, whatever you want to call it. What this does is if you're in the middle of a MIDI note, normally if you press stop or pause and then press play again and it begins in the middle of that MIDI note, it's not very fun. Like it's silent. I've always hated that, and you have to do this, turn on this setting every single time. But if you make it a project template, you only have to do that once. So that's why I'm telling you guys to do this. So now that we have our top window in the way that we prefer to have it, and we've also turned on MIDI Chase, we can actually get started. From this side window right here or through the mix window itself, either way, you're going to go to the Sends section and just use bus 1 through 5. You're just going to select all of those. I don't know what a good color is. We'll make them this. We're going to label this. I do it in all caps. I just find it better. I do have some distance between my monitor and where I'm actually sitting, so maybe that's part of it, but I just like how it looks to have it in all caps. I feel like it's cleaner. The next thing I'm going to do is actually select all of them except for the stereo out, and I'm going to hit Create Tracks. Each one of these will now be here, and I'm going to create a track stack and just do a basic folder. I'm going to label that PRN stack. Already established we have the PRN track so we don't screw up the remaining part of our template. The cool thing about these, now that we've made them on the track itself or on their individual tracks, is we can go ahead and automate them as needed as well. But if I don't need them because they're as needed tracks, I can go ahead and just close that. So now I know where they are at all times. We're going to close it. Just to make it easier on ourselves is by creating an audio track, which we're going to put above the PRN track. We're going to go ahead and select buses 6, Alright, so now we have all of our auxiliary tracks created, all of our buses for anything that is specifically vocal related. What I'm going to go ahead and do, just like the others, select all of these, change the color. For me, I like to make these a dark gold for the lead, and then anything else in my harmony and Vox will be in those. And then I'll make all these that color. I don't know, it's kind of like a dirty, gross looking mustard, and that's what I'm going to select. Then I'm going to label these appropriately as Vox for my main vocals, Vox, Vox. Let's take a second. The Vox is for my main vocal tracks. That'll include anything like the lead chorus vocal or the verse vocals as well. The harmony Vox will be just that. For any of my harmonies, they will definitely be there. This Vox serves two purposes. If I have a vocal stack of oohs or ohs or anything like that, choirs, that can be customized through this track and controlled very easily. But let's say that I have a very unique set of vocals or something that I actually turn more into like a synth, and I don't have vocal stacks within the song. But let's say I have an interesting vocal that I have just mutated and changed around to sound like something completely different. Maybe it's even a stack of these, so they're very interesting. That's the other reason this track is called the Vox, is because they make you go, this is tight.
Lit.
If you want to, you could create a fourth one that would just be labeled at like unique Vox or something like that. But I really like just sticking with this because it almost never ends up being something that's a huge deal. It's more for your own classification. To keep on going, we're then going to have the Vox Effects. Here we have VFX, the vocal effects, and we're going to start labeling these effects. So S just stands for short verb, reverb, long reverb, short delay, long delay. Here's where it gets into the things that I use every single time, and it might not be something you use, so again, customize it to the way that you would. I almost always on these main vocals use an octave low, then an octave high, and then a doubler, which I'm going to spell incorrectly just to save space. Now that we have these all labeled correctly, we're going to start routing. My Vfx bus, or my vocal effects bus, are going to easily control all of the audio coming from that. So I'm going to select from the short verb through the doubler, look at my output, and select bus 9, which you can see right there. Here, I'll make the mouse bigger for a second. And then select it. So anything that's coming in from these buses goes back out to my VFX or my vocal effects bus itself. So if I'm really loving how my vocals are hitting these effects, but the effects are too loud, simple, you just turn that down. Perfect. Really easy fix. We're all finished with that, and we're going to go ahead and create another stack. So again, we will select all of these, including the VFX. We're going to create all the tracks. I normally like to select all of them and change them to something different. Alright, so I took the time to actually put the icons for each one. I'm on the last one, which is the doubler, and I'm going to show you a current problem that I'm having with it, just to be transparent. When I was trying to select a microphone like these all had, I was having problems, so I switched it to something random and then tried to switch it to the microphone, and it worked. I don't know if that's a current glitch, or if I'm just a silly goose who is not using this correctly, but that's how I got around it. So if you're making it yourself, there you go, you're not the only one having problems. So I have all of these, they're now labeled correctly, they have icons, they have everything that they need. I'm going to go ahead and create a track stack for them, and then for the as needed ones, I'm going to make that a speaker. One thing I forgot to do is actually add these as tracks, so I'm going to do that. Select these three, move them above the effects, because this is how my mind works. And I'm going to change the icons on these to match the way that I want them to. Alright, so now I have all of these routed, color-coded, named the way that I want them to be, at least in relation to all the vocals. I'm going to go ahead and create a track stack for these, just another folder stack, and I'm just going to label it vocal stack. Gonna change the icon on that, and whatever your preference is. Alright, and then I'm gonna move that above. I did change the icon on that just so it's more easy for me to associate something like a visual with what it's actually going to be doing, and then we're gonna keep on going. We're going to create one more audio track, and this is just because eventually you run out of buses and I don't want to deal with that, so I'm not going to deal with that. And we're going to go ahead and select 17 through 25 on these buses. Alright, and now that we have all of these, they're all these beautiful, gorgeous dirty mustard colors, we're going to change that to, I like to have something that's like, alright, so I have that at the end. I'll go ahead and label these all Vox. Piano, synth, AC guitar for acoustic guitars, E guitar, then we have bass, that includes sub bass, drums, percussion, and then we have our comp. It's our secret weapon right there. The next thing we're going to do is make sure that all of these are open. Now that we've created every stack, every track that we're needing to for this, we're going to go ahead and select everything except for those 3 tracks that we originally created. So these are all technically buses. Make sure to select all of them, and we're going to hit that little circle right there to make it stereo. Every one of these should now be stereo. That will play a huge role. Even if it's a mono track, that can still run perfectly the way that it needs to, so don't worry about that. We can go ahead and close the as needed stack and the vocal stacks. Alright, so this is the first thing that I always do, especially when I've been building these, is I'll add gain. I do it at -10 dB, and the reason is because I have SonarWorks, and when I add that, it has like a natural gain thing, and when you turn that off, once you're checking your final mix, it gets really loud really quick, and I don't like that. So I just run it all quieter, no problems there. Next thing we're going to do is select a bus compressor. This one's just from SSL. I got these on a deal last summer they had. It was like 25 bucks for this one. It was this and another drum compressor of some kind. They kind of relabeled them. So at the time, the native channel strip of theirs was actually supposed to be for like drums or something like that. And they switched it around a little bit, so now it looks different. It was horizontal instead of vertical, but it's whatever, it works the same. So depending on what you would want, if you're having that, you can have more control. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this on. This will have to be customized within every song, but it just saves you some time to just plan ahead and know what you're going to be doing to begin with. I'm also going to route this, sidechain this to my all Vox, which is bus 17, as you can see right there. So we'll go to bus 17. Next thing we're going to do is select piano. Do not include all Vox, I've made that mistake. Through percussion, we're going to go ahead and send this to bus 25, which is that par comp or parallel compression. We're going to go ahead and make that, I normally turn it down rather low because you use this. So we've routed all this, but what does the parallel compression actually do in this scenario? So for me, I actually learned it from the Recording Revolution, a cool YouTube channel I got into when I was first starting to record. I will link his channel down below because he's awesome, and if you're trying to learn, you should check him out. But he had showed how another mix engineer that he was able to hang around or something like that used parallel compression on the mix bus. So I decided to do something fairly similar. I have my vocals that are actually going to sidechain to this. We've established this. And then all of these, my pianos, my synths, my guitars, bass, and drums, will all be hit with this hard compression when my audio of the all vocal track is playing, is singing through. If I turn this down and I have this going quietly in the background, it adds more of a wave of sound. The cool thing about this is now you don't have to automate as much because it literally happens as you're playing. When the singer stops, the music gets slightly louder, but it's so vibrant. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just a cool little thing. It's so quick. It makes my mixes 5-10 times better, and all it takes is me customizing the compressor itself as needed with the song, and then turning it louder and quieter as needed to fit in and just be a really soft, subtle, amazing, beautiful thing that's added to that. Next, we're going to select the vocal track. I'm going to go ahead and hit that on a Saturn II by Fab Filter, and we're going to hit it with clean tape, just at 20%. It's nothing dramatic. And the reason for this is now you can get an analog sound, a little bit of saturation, a tiny bit of distortion. Again, it's super subtle. I might actually turn it down from 20%. Most of the time on my vocals, I turn it down to 10. And then on my bass, I'll turn it up from a clean tape to a warm tape, and I'll leave it at 20%. What actually happens is I don't have thousands of dollars lying around to just run it through Neve hardware, so I got to do the best I can. When all of my audio ends up running through these, it gets a little bit of saturation, it adds more unity and glue to the mix, and again, it's something that took me a few seconds right now. The next thing I'm going to do is on that drum track, I will add Fab Filters Compressor. I normally just keep it clean. I think for this one, I normally just keep it clean. I'll turn it pretty fast and then leave it at 4. I always turn off the auto. And again, you will have to customize that as needed. I'm not even trying to replicate a certain thing at this time. I'm just throwing on something. I know that my all Vox bus will need a compressor as well, so I'll throw in a duplicate of that. I'm not going to mess with it. Like I said, you customize it every time. It just saves you a little bit of time to do this. I'm also going to be adding the compressor here. Alright, so now we've added Saturn to every one, or some sort of saturation. I added some compressors, knowing that I will change them up as needed. I have Sound ID running through that. Really nice. And we'll go back over here. We're going to go ahead and throw on some EQ. I'm going to just do the stock EQ. It's controversial to some and just duh to others. I'm going to EQ some stuff out and just leave it like that to begin with. When you're using vocal effects, it's absolutely awful when your S's have reverb, because then it sounds like this. Isn't this nice?
That's garbage, bro.
So don't do that. When I know that all of these are running through here, I only have to add one EQ, saving time and money. Wow, this is great. You're welcome. I will go ahead and add an EQ to all of these with the main Vox, harmony, and ooh, but I'm not touching anything. Now you have to actually use the effects that you want to use. I'm gonna go ahead and hit some stereo delay. I normally just use the stock emulations on these because they were made by Logic and they work really well. Don't overthink that. You don't need anything else than that. And for some, I do really prefer like what they have. I know on the octave low and high, I do use little altar boy. So I'm not gonna act like high and mighty, but don't go spend a bunch of money for these things. So I have a short reverb, just using the stock reverb. Don't overthink it. It works really well. I'm gonna go ahead and make this size large and the reflectivity large. Shape as needed. Now we will move on to the short delay. I like to make it a stereo. Just leave it. My long delay. I like to make a really long echo. And then for my octave low and my octave high, where is it? We'll use little altar boy. And I'll turn up the drive because it almost always needs it. I leave it at 0. Actually, no, I'll leave it at 5 to begin with. I found more often than not just flipping it to sound exactly 12 lower, exactly an octave lower. Doesn't really sound as good as I thought it would. And then here, like, I leave it much looser. I know that I will change those around. And then the doubler, I use Isotope's doubler. It's free. It's pretty nice. Do that all the way, really easy. We got all that figured out. I will go ahead and add another compressor to the main vocals. I will turn this one to opto because I almost always end up using that. Alright, so now I've added all of the audio effects that I want to add. The last thing I'm going to do is make sure that all of these are tracks. Go ahead and hit all these and I will create tracks. And get out of here. I will create a track stack, simple folder, label that as mix board. Change the icon, and then I'll just go ahead and do that for all of these. Alright, in true transparency, I have to show you guys that my Mac was messing up and for some reason it was looping together my all Vox fader within my vocal section, so I just had to reverse that here. I had to select this because it kept messing up for some reason. Select all of these that you have now made. Don't select the stacks, just the individual ones that we have now made as tracks. Create a track stack that is just folder. Label it as mixboard, because that's what I'm trying to emulate with this. I'll move that to the back, make sure that that is the back as well. And then we'll get to work just trying to make sure that it all looks the same. This part is so boring. Sorry, I had to go to the bathroom. So we have switched all of that. Close that out. I'm gonna go ahead and label these the same colors. Okay, so those are all labeled. I need to make that. Now they are color coded, they are labeled correctly. Everything's in the right order. And they are all tracks here, so if I need to automate anything, I can, which is so easy. The last thing I need to do, personally, is label all of these, which is just main Vox through the Vox Effects, into the all Vox, which is bus 17. And from there it should be good. I'm going to go ahead and turn my entire mix bus section into stereo pan as opposed to balance, and I should be good. I'm looking over, make sure everything's stereo for you that you want to have stereo. Make sure everything is, the panning is in stereo that you want that way as well. Color coded the way you want it, and then in the order that you would like that as well. The only thing that you will have to remember with these as needed buses is that your output is still going to be stereo out. So as you use them for a certain synth or anything like that, you will have to route that appropriately, but it's pretty easy if you're already going to throw in some crazy amp and you go, oh yes, this is the bee's knees, to just go, alright, now this goes to my synth, I'm done. But I'll leave mine cleared. I'm gonna double check these real quick. Alright, so I'm finished with those. The last thing I'm going to do is delete those 3 tracks we started with because we just don't need them. We're gonna make one more instance of a MIDI instrument and we're done. Now I have this the way that I have it. I have these all made. My mix bus. I always know that all of my individual tracks will be to the left, and I will start messing with my stacks and mix board to the right. And I have all of my basic settings that I use every single time selected, color coded, yada yada yada. I will make sure to save as a template, and I will save it as 2022 main template. I will have that template down below. Make sure to download that. Obviously, customize it how you need it. The benefits for me is that I can do some sort of top-down mixing if I choose to, which I've started to implement a little bit. It's made my workflow a lot less CPU intensive, as well as just quicker overall, and I can get a reliable mix all the time. And I just find it to be a smooth thing. I don't know how else to describe it. It's the way that I do it. So that's how you do it. If you have any questions, make sure to comment down below. Like I said, I will try and have a link so that you can download that template if you want. If you have any suggestions about how I could improve as far as this, or any ways that you've started to implement, let me know. I'd love to learn how I could actually speed up my process as well. I hope this helped you, and as always, fiddle little, my dudes. I don't ever think I did an intro.